All right, now that everyone's quiet. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our first panel discussion. My name is Josh McVeigh. I'm the president of the Entrepreneurship Club here at Eastern, and I will be your moderator for this afternoon. First off, I'd like to thank our 3 alumni for coming back to Eastern and here to share their experiences and their knowledge with all of us. And with the help of our advisor, Dr. Paul Gilson, and Director of Institute for Advancement, Joseph McGann, I'd like to do this panel more often so we can help stimulate the need for Entrepreneurship Club here at Eastern, and we can inspire students to create their own business ventures. So now I'm just going to briefly describe and introduce our speakers here. You have their complete bios on your chairs and your tables, so you can read along. Our first speaker will be Mr. Jack Shaka, who graduated from the class of '79. He went to school here with the ambition to be a teacher and pursued that goal, but fortunately a couple years later was laid off, but he did not let that deter him. He used his knowledge of manufacturing with the help of his father, started the company Afcon Products Incorporated. And then our next speaker would be Ernest Renner from the class of '94, and who graduated with a degree in computer science. And with his knowledge from the computer science department, he used it to create Neos. Neos is a company that specializes in business, IT, optimization, and modernization. But over the past 13 years, they have expanded and have greatly expanded their field of operations. And our last speaker would be John Wilson from the class of 1980. He's an example of an alumnus who did not start on an entrepreneurial path. He went to school for sociology, but ended up becoming and creating the company Letter Concepts Incorporated. It is a direct mail business with automated machinery and state-of-the-art equipment, but is also very labor-intensive. And my e-board and I came up with some questions to ask the alumni, and so we're all on the same page. Today we'll be discussing what obstacles they have encountered as an entrepreneur. How did you stay focused when met with a failure? How did you come up with your business idea, and what was the process of starting your business? And finally, did you work in collaboration with anyone to start your business? So with those in mind, I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Shaka.
I have to say, when I first came down High Street and turned onto the Eastern campus, if I didn't see the sign, I certainly would not have recognized Eastern. It's been 35 years since I graduated from Eastern Connecticut State, and the campus has just transformed into something that I certainly don't even recognize, all for your benefit. So you all get to enjoy Eastern as it is today. I graduated '79 with a Bachelor of Science degree in education, and that was the reason why I attended Eastern in the first place. This used to be Willimantic Teachers College back in its day, had a reputation of being a good teacher at college. It's what I pursued, and was successful enough to get a teaching job in the town of Farmington right out of college. And I taught junior high school for a couple of years. And just like everything back in the 1980s, the baby boom was over, enrollment at schools were declining, teachers were being laid off. So I certainly was, being the youngest school teacher at that time in the school system, I was one of the first to go. So here I am now, unemployed, Bachelor of Science degree, and no teaching opportunities coming my way. In the meantime, as a young kid, I had been exposed to a lot of the work my father had done at that time, which was working as a defense contractor. He was a vice president of a major corporation down in the Bridgeport area. And through those years, through the 60s, as we were fighting the Vietnam War at that time, it was his company that was providing a lot of the power equipment to our troops in the field. So working weekends, out in the shop, being exposed to that as a kid, certainly had that little bit of a knowledge of what that business can bring. And so here it is, 1981. I can tell you right now, I had no advantage that you have today of coming from a school that had an entrepreneur club and get any sort of a business background. So certainly I lean a lot on my father back then, who had since lost his job with that big corporation due to the fact that their company had gone into bankruptcy. So here he is, climbing the corporate ladder, came in as an engineer, became a director of customer service, became a vice president of the corporation, has been with the company for 11 years, now he's unemployed. So with his expertise and a little bit of, and certainly with my interest and his help, we formed Afcon Products in 1981. And the challenges of that is the amount of competition at that time was tremendous. There were a lot of companies basically doing the same type of work that we were going to get involved in. But just like anything, you start off with an idea. We had nothing more than a phone, a desk, and a chair, and a one-room office. And that was our first place of business for Afcon Products back in 1981. So our challenges were establishing the company name, offering a level of expertise that our customer would want to, of course, utilize, and of course, looking for opportunities of sales opportunities that come our way. And I like to think that the one thing that I had on my side, which you all have here today, is you have age on your side. And what I mean by that is I had the time that it needed to put into my business. I was not 60 years old starting a new business. I was 23 years old starting a new business. So as time went on, I knew that I would be able to utilize the knowledge that I was gaining as I was learning about defense contracting to pursue growth for my company. And that did prove to be the case as, again, time went on. I tried to educate myself every which way I could. We didn't have the internet back in those days. And if I wanted to learn more about my line of work, it meant getting out and visiting my customers, visiting the defense depots, and attending every government conference that I could actually line up for. So just adding that knowledge to our, again, taking care of our customers in the field was our ultimate goal. I'm not quite sure how much more you want me to elaborate at this point. You want me to continue on, or did you want to pose the same question to John and Ernst? Or I can continue on if you want. Oh, okay. Okay. Some of the we were talking about, of course, what it takes to start a business, and of course the pitfalls that you have and whatnot. I can tell you is that from 1981 to literally the next 15 years, again, we were talking about time and having time on your side, being as young as you are. I can tell you right now, there wasn't much money coming into the company. Anything that we were making, we were reinvesting back into the company. And what I mean by reinvesting was we were buying inventory, we were buying equipment, we were paying the bills, we were paying the help. My income through those years was working nights at a restaurant, waiting on tables, working as a bartender, making ends meet that way. So if you're gonna be an entrepreneur and you're gonna start a new business, besides hard work and dedication and a vision to succeed, I think that one of the most important things you have to remember is there's going to be a level of sacrifice that you're going to have to make. And with a vision of moving forward with this business over time, and we can see the opportunities continuing to grow, I can tell you right now, had I not been working nights and making that extra income, I would not be sitting here in front of you today to tell you about my life story. It wasn't until the mid-90s, and this was well after the first Persian Gulf War had occurred, that suddenly our name started to surface more and more throughout the defense industry. And that did not come easy. It's again a matter of getting your name out there, visiting your customer, establishing relationships. But it took those many years for that to actually occur. The biggest break happened in 1999 when one of the largest defense contractors in the country ended up into bankruptcy. They closed their doors. 500 people, that's 500 families suddenly without a job. And the company had been in business for 75 years. Most of the equipment that our troops were using in the field were manufactured by this company. It would be like General Motors closing their doors today, and everybody else on campus there is driving a General Motors vehicle. And suddenly now your car needs to be repaired, you need parts, you need help with your engine and such. This is exactly what happened with this company back in 1999. We saw it as an opportunity. And what money I had saved up over those years is what I was able to offer the bankruptcy court in Kansas City, Missouri, for the rights to buy what was left of this company. They had already laid off all their people, they had already sold off their machinery, but at that point, what I was interested in was the technology, the design rights, and the company name. And it was what we purchased, which opened up a flood of opportunities to support our troops in the field to equipment that they were currently using. 2 years later, little did we know what was going to happen, 9/11 occurred. And suddenly we're pulling assets out of storage and we're sending troops to Iraq and eventually Afghanistan. And it was because of that suddenly we thought we were busy prior to that. Well, I can tell you right now, it has been the last 12, 13 years, my life has been nonstop. So an opportunity, a company going out of business presented an opportunity for us. We positioned ourselves up until that time, up until 1999, to be in a position to capitalize on an event where this company went into bankruptcy. But more importantly, we're able to support our troops in the field. So I sit here today, and I've had my business now since 1981. It's been 33 years. For me, it's been a career. And we're experiencing slower times now as we continue to downsize in Afghanistan. We've already pulled out of Iraq. So I do have some new challenges that are facing my company as far as continued workload as we move forward. But I have to say, it's been a dream come true for me as a business owner to work through those early years, capitalize on opportunities, and to be able to say, after 33 years, it's been just a dream come true for me as a businessman to say we've been a success. And I think it goes back to, as an entrepreneur, I think you all, if you're going to start a business someday in the future, start off with a vision and pursue that vision with dedication and determination, and if you truly believe in what you can accomplish. And if that is the case, I believe in time, you too will have your opportunity to move forward, whether it be acquiring a company, like in my case, making a name for yourself, get people to trust in you. Quality, by all means, is number one with our company. We get contracts today not because we're the lowest bidder, it's because we are the best bidder. And I think that says a lot for our philosophy as a company. So you can be successful as an entrepreneur. You have to give put in the dedication, the determination. But again, sacrifice is something that all us, and I'm sure I can speak for my co-panelists, my alumni panelists, that we've all gone through, and I'm sure we've all experienced that in our lifetime. So, did I cover all those questions? Okay.
So thank you, Mr. Shaka, and our next speaker will be Mr. Renner.
Thank you. I was gonna let you go next. I don't want to follow Jack after that. great discussion. So my name is Ernst Renner. I am a local guy, all right? I grew up in Plainfield. Any Plainfield, Moosup, Danielson people? Raise your hands, please. All right, good, good. So I lived in Plainfield. I went to Ellis Tech, all right? My family moved here from Germany, so we're an immigrant family. I went to Ellis, then I went to Thames Valley for 2 years, and then I had to go and work, right? So where I chose to work was Electric Boat. So I'm going to kind of try to frame my story up into, I'm going to tackle your points, Josh, and if I don't hit them, let me know, okay? So I'm trying to think of an interesting way to present those topics. I would chop up my career and basically my career and maybe now my life into certain milestones. I haven't seen it anywhere. All right. Are you from Plainfield, Danielson, Killingly, or anything? No? Okay, all right. I just didn't want you to feel like you missed out on anything, so I just... So those milestones are lying in bilge water in a submarine, hitting a glass ceiling, smoking a cigar on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, extreme worry and anxiety over my children, and then dealing with the credit ratings of France. So I'll see if I can, and if you guys remember all those, we'll see if I can sync through them. So while I was working at Electric Boat, lying in bilge water, pulling cable, right? Bilge water, if you don't know, that's the very bottom of a submarine. That's where all the extra fluids of a submarine of any type go and gather and collect. And I was down there pulling cables, and I was working hard, and that's what I did. And I realized what I would do is go home and with my spare change buy like Forbes, right? And I'd read about the stock market, and I'd wonder how all these other folks are really making money. Like, how can I can't make guesses? Like, that's what it seemed to me, right? And I thought to myself, I'm going to go back to school. So that's why I chose Eastern, right? So I worked at a shipyard, and I went to Eastern at night. And I had taken a year off in between there to lay in that bilge water and figure out that maybe I'd want to do something different with my life, right? So being there and coming to Eastern was great, right? What I missed out on was I had a bunch of friends in low-rise, right? So I'd go on Thursday nights and hang out with my buddies in low-rise, but I always had to go home at like midnight because I had to get up at 4 to get on a bus to go to a shipyard. Okay, so my tenure here in '94, I'm a lot older than a '94 graduate ought to be, but it took a little while to do that. So 3 or 4 classes a semester, working full-time, that kind of stuff. But I got through it. And the instant I graduated, I knew I wasn't going to work at a shipyard. I wanted to do something else. So I worked, I started first at a food store as a programmer. And on that day, it was very fortuitous that a guy who is now my business partner, and this started at the same time as I did. And he was a brilliant technologist. I was just kind of a good, I guess, organizer, marketer of what we were doing, and general conversationalist, I guess. But he was a brilliant, brilliant programmer developer, and we became very close friends. I jumped from there to a big insurance company. Within 3 years, I went from being a database administrator. I don't know if there's any other MIS or IT or BIS folks here. I was a database architect, database administrator. I worked no less than 55 hours a week for 4 years. In fact, 1 year I had worked more than 115 hours in a single week, I think 6 times. And the moral of that story was I worked my tail off in that place because I could see all the stuff that I was thinking about when I was at Electric Boat. I could see the ties, I could see big dollar figures next to things, I could see building a team, I could see motivating a team to me, which I learned was a lot of fun, to get people rallied behind and after a common goal. I thought was awesome. And I hit that glass ceiling, which was my next point, when I was told at 28 I had 122 people reporting to me and about a $9 million budget at 28 years old. So in that 4 years from graduating from Eastern to getting to this insurance company, I had done fairly well. But I was told at that time, where I had promoted one person up 2 or 3 levels above me to a senior vice president, I was told very directly, we don't have vice presidents who are under the age of 30 at this insurance company. And in my head, I got a bunch of colorful terms, and I don't know where I can say those, right? But that was a real eye-opener. And I thought to myself, why am I working so hard to propel this company this far when I could be doing this on my own. At 30, I had one child at that point, and he was 2. And I decided I'm gonna take this job where I'm making good money and great benefits and, you know, supposed security forever. I'm gonna drop that, and I'm gonna try to get late into the game. This is 2000, into the dot-com era, right? And I'd taken all the good stuff and the hard work and all the ethics, and I'd bundled that into things, and I'd taken a big risk by saying, I'm gonna take all the things that I'd learned and all the things that I know, and I'm gonna apply it to all these startup companies that are cool, edgy, fun, risky, and I'm gonna do it, wing it. I had maybe 3 clients lined up, one of which was a dot-com company. I was talking to Josh a little bit about this, and they were in the media business. Within 3 months, they asked me to be their chief information officer and to help them raise institutional investment money, so VC money, working with VCs and big banks. And I don't know if you talk much about different ways of raising cash for a business, but I got to learn that. And working with media, I also got to go out to travel to Los Angeles and New York and work in the media entertainment industry, which was immensely fun. It was really fun, right? It was a great business to be in. And so smoking that cigar out on Sunset Boulevard, I was at a hotel with our CEO and a couple of executives from Universal, and that's the way business is conducted a little bit in Los Angeles. I looked over LA and I looked over a pool and I smoked a cigar and I said, you know, I think I'm on a good path here. I think I'm on a good path. I like this. You know, we just discussed the distribution rights for Gladiator, which, I don't know, maybe you guys even remember that movie, right? But Gladiator was out at that point, and it was a great day. And I thought to myself, you know what, this was worth the risk. This was pretty good. But like all things, that dot-com bubble burst, right? And I sat there and I had, at that time, 2 kids, both very young, and I had my business partner, and that company sort of went under, like a lot of others did, and I thought, wow, I left this great insurance business and I've got this, so now what am I gonna do? So it was another time to kind of gather yourself up and kind of look at things and say, okay, well, what's next? And the decision, right, against maybe good reason or better judgment, was I'm gonna continue on. I didn't know what I was gonna do. So the question of, you know, where the business goes, you know, because full-time for 1.5 years, almost 2 years, I was leading this company's investment rounds. I was working with studio executives. I was out of the insurance industry for the most part. I could always go back in. I decided to continue on, not really knowing what I wanted to do. What I had learned, though, was that companies with products have better valuations than others. Companies with services have a lower valuation than companies with products. Having worked with institutions and organizations in judging valuation and constantly revaluing our own business, I'd come to understand that. And so my partner, that guy I mentioned I started with, I had pulled him into the media company. We kind of sat around and said, all right, what are we doing? Well, we want to build some kind of software, we don't know what. So let's become consultants, figure out what the market needs, and maybe we can develop some software. So that was kind of a next big jump. We moved in, and NEOS was officially stood up in 2000 and was really kind of reinvigorated in 2002 when we started doing all this. And we worked with the businesses we knew, insurance, pharmaceuticals, really services-based. But then we found a way to do some great stuff with Oracle technology. Not only did we excel at it, I stood up a second operating business. So I actually own 2 businesses, one called NEOS and one called VGO Software. By 2006, we were one of 2 companies in the world Oracle kind of endorsed to do the work that we did in the world. So all of a sudden we found ourselves doing business in Athens, in Germany, in Dubai. By 2008, I had a small development team in Vilnius, Lithuania, which if you ever get a chance to go to Lithuania, I strongly recommend you do. It's an excellent town. It's a college city, 4 universities, everybody speaks English, and they're lots of fun, awesome people. We had a 4-person team there. We had a sales rep in Munich. We were on the path of software development, right? Selling software, high valuations. And then 2008 hit. So, to your point about determination, it's constantly tested all along the line, right? We had done well, but really I had taken every dollar that we made in profit And it went into hiring developers, it went into hiring marketing people, went into hiring salespeople. It didn't go back home, right? I don't drive a Mercedes. I don't live in a 10,000 square foot house, right? And I certainly didn't then. You know, we lived I think I drove a Subaru Outback at the time, and we lived in a 1,900 square foot raised ranch. Because the payout when you're an entrepreneur, it can be, right? When you're an entrepreneur, the payout isn't at the beginning. Something may happen in the middle. The payout's at the end in a lot of cases, right? So I was in it for the end. And the end for me is an exit, some kind of purchase or acquisition or merger. So that worry part came in 2008, 2009 when I put all my investment, I put everything into that, right? I had no retirement. I had very little saved for my kids' college education. All the stuff you're supposed to do as a responsible adult, you know, I didn't do because I was an entrepreneur. And those are some of the things that you think about. And so that point of worry, you know, if I'd wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning and this happens to me often still, I can't go back to sleep because I'm thinking, how are we going to put this together? How are we going to fix this part? How are we going to save this client? How are we going to do whatever we do, right? It was extreme in 2009. And it almost caused me to say, I'm folding up the company. I got to worry about my family first, right? Instead, what we decided to do is transform the business. So this entity called Neos was really just feeding this big investment called Vigo, and it hadn't really grown. It was just there to pay it. So in 2009, I transformed the business to really focus on Neos, and we've been able to grow Neos as a consulting business, and now we work, I'm dressed so stodgily and kind of like conservatively today because I came down from one of our big clients up in Boston, a financial services company, where we're helping them with a global risk program. Kind of lost the thread. Where am I going? I'm getting older. But anyway, apart from my suit, thinking about tying those pieces together, that we've expanded our business to get some of the world's most recognizable financial services companies. We deal a lot with information media. The next point was ratings. You're supposed to keep me on track. You let me? Oh, yeah, right. I've already lost one. I don't know. I might be losing a couple others. Maybe two. There's another one. But so ratings agency. What's happened is that one of our largest clients is Standard & Poor's. I'm sure as business majors and stuff, you've heard of the S&P 500 and stock market and everything. They had downgraded the country of France. That's what I was going to talk about France being downgraded, right? So France being downgraded, what that reflected for us was a way to go in and find out, well, why did this ratings organization downgrade France? They asked us to come in and help them figure it out. And what that created for us was a great ability to scale our business because it turned into a wonderful relationship for a very long time. And it allowed us to grow our organization. And it became really a big propellant into the next stage of investment, right? So that determination breaks through each of those walls, and those are each challenges or even failures if you want to look at them, right? But each time new opportunity comes up, I think like a serial entrepreneur is a little bit of I want to say a little bit of a masochist, right? You're almost like going, okay, give me the pain. I want to get through this next wall. I'm going to proceed. I'm going to make it better each time through. And that's constantly what I'm doing with my business, reinvesting, hiring, growing. So since even this, the bio's been written, and you might have seen me flip into it, I wanted to see what was in there. We've opened an office in Austin, Texas. We've employed a few people up in Seattle. We have clients across the U.S. from a Neos perspective. We're continuing on a big growth pattern. So, in terms of, your key points, Josh, that you pointed out, like failure, I kind of equated to, every time it's a very binary decision, whether you're going to accept it or you're not. A lot of times your decision on whether you're going to accept a failure or a hardship is going to be tied up into what you have invested in it. So there's different ways to fund. This is a longer conversation, and I joked, but I'm actually going to do it. I'll continue it at Blarney's if anybody's interested. But there's different ways of figuring out how to invest and fund your business, right? So if you have your family tied up, and as you get older, your investment gets tied up with the people that are with you. So whether, initially for me it was my kids, then it became with true employee number one, and all of a sudden you've got their family, right, that really you're accountable for. So if you're worried about payroll, you're worried about benefits, you're worried about that, every time you hire somebody, add that into the equation. And I guess last, there was a point, Josh, in your list about collaboration. I partnered with this guy, Rob Nocera, because he's a brilliant technologist, and he remains, he's far cooler than I am. He's got, he's long hair, he listens to great music, he wears Google Glass. He's all the things I'd want to be. But above all, he's a great partner and a great friend. So if you think about the entrepreneurial angle, think about who you're going into business with. And Jack trusted his dad, right? So that's somebody you can count on to when times get tough to get through it. When you're totally by yourself, it's really hard, and I can't imagine doing it without a great partner in there. And I kind of rambled. I apologize, but I tried to put it in some kind of framework that would make sense. So just.
And last but not least, Mr. John Wilson.
Thanks. I'm going to stand if that's okay with everybody. My back's starting to go, so. It's been about 34 years for me since I was here at Eastern, and I'll just share with you the fact that I loved my 4 years, my education here. It's about relationships, it's about people, wonderful professors, wonderful people, learned a lot, given a lot of opportunities, Campus Lantern and Student Senate, and many others as well. And I just hope that you're all taking those opportunities to heart, because those are the pieces that will really help you moving forward. When I got out of Eastern, I had the opportunity to become a child abuse investigator for the state of Connecticut. And at that time, it was called the Department of Children and Youth Services. I did that position for 3 years, and it was a very, very rewarding position. Had the opportunity to work with a number of children that needed my assistance in terms of their parental and family situation, whereas parental rights had to be terminated and children had to be placed either with relatives that were very caring or into an adoption family situation. And all of that work, working with the court system and being involved, led me on an expedition to move forward and to think about advancing myself, using the education that I got at Eastern, using the education that I got back in Wallingford at Lyman Hall High School, to potentially, hopefully, have my own business and to be able to go in a direction that I felt would be helpful to society and also to me, relevant to a family and being able to manage my own finances and be able to have a home, etc. I can remember there was a international relations professor, I can't remember his name, but he said to us, I think it was 1977, most of you will never have your own home. And that really hit home with me because, we were having tough times back then. But everything's cyclical. We have tough times now, etc. But as I walked down this path, I had an opportunity to leave state service, and my rationale was that there wasn't an opportunity to advance at that young age. Kind of, as Ernest said, there's this ceiling where they say, well, we don't make supervisors within the state realm until you're, in your middle 30s, that you've been here for 10 or 15 years and you've proven yourself. And I said, I need to move a little quicker than that. I need to see what else is out there in this world. And I had a cousin who was a year behind me who went to Fairfield University, and he called me one day and said, I've been working 6 months with this company called Community Counseling Service out of the Empire State Building, and they need somebody, and I know that you'd be the perfect fit. And what we do is we're consultants. We go out and we consult on nonprofit fundraising programs. I said, oh, okay. All right, let me think about it. And I talked it over with my folks and so forth and my girlfriend. And I said, well, why don't I go down for the interview? So, you can imagine the shaking in my hands and my feet as I'm walking down Fifth Avenue over to the Empire State Building, off the train, the whole bit. And they invited me back for a second interview. I got the position, and they put me immediately on a plane and sent me to Dallas, Texas. And basically, I felt like I got kicked out of the back end of the plane into a church that they were building in Arlington, Texas, called the Blessed Sacrament. And it was a new church, and they needed to raise $2.5 million, and that was in 1983. And I said, wow, I'm in charge. They just made me this director. I've really had no training in my mind, but I'm gonna have to do this because I don't want to lose this job. And I said to myself, you know what? Eastern, state service, my background is going to get me through this. I'm going to do this. And my first visit was to a guy by the name of Dave Moritz, and I had to ask Dave for $1 million. We needed to get $1 million gift from Dave because he basically owned all of Arlington, Texas. He owned all the Cadillac dealerships and so forth. And he looked at me and he said, hey, boy, I'll give you $750,000, but the $250 I'm going to give to my summer parish. So you can go back and tell the Monsignor that I'm on board. And I just said a prayer after that and said, I think I got through this. And we had a 6-month campaign, and we raised the rest of the money, and all the parishioners did a little bit, 500, 1,000, what have you. And that was my first taste of what I was eventually going to do. But what I was going to do is work with this company for a number of years and then take the opportunity to come home. So I could come home to Connecticut, have a family, have kids, and be able to control my own destiny. And I thought it through, and I used a lot of yellow pads, wrote everything out, okay? Got my younger brother involved, and we started this business in 1989. We each put in, there were 3 of us. There was a gal that I had met in fundraising, and she decided she would come along with us for the ride. And my brother and I, we did $20,000 each. We started with $60,000, and that first year we did about $850,000 in business. And what we did was a compilation of going out and being consultants on these fundraising programs, either for a nonprofit or for a church. In the early days of the Alumni Association here, I did all the mailings for you folks for about 10 years, okay? I don't even think the guys know that, but I did that and enjoyed it and really enjoyed the opportunity to come back and see the campus at that time in the 90s just starting to grow a little bit from what it was when I was here in the late 70s. And those opportunities have evolved, and we've moved this business over 25 years to a $6 million business. It's still a small business, and I think each of you has to think about the fact that you don't have to build something that's incredibly big or grandiose or what have you. It has to be in line with your family dynamics, your family values, your core beliefs as far as what are you looking to do. It might be a very small business of 2 or 3 people. It might be something that you start. When I started, we had 6 people, and today we have 50, 48 or so. It ebbs and flows. That which still makes my stomach very nervous if we have to let anybody go, or all of those kinds of things are very difficult. I'm sure both guys, would say the same thing. But it's very rewarding because you're able to kind of control what is going to happen. You have to work hard. You all know that. You're here, you have tests, you have this, you have that, papers. You want to go hide a little bit. You got other responsibilities. But it is very rewarding to be able to take control and move a business along, and there are all sorts of different things. Predominantly, our business moved into church-related aspects, with the Catholic Church particularly, based on the experiences that I had with this firm that I worked for 6 years after I did the social work. And that has had its ups and downs. Catholic Church particularly. In 2002, it was devastating to see this clergy sex abuse situation come about. And it was hard because at that time we had 30 employees, and in my heart I was responsible for their jobs. But I also knew that we were losing traction in all the different programs that we were running in Boston, New York, Cincinnati, where there were abuse cases and the amount of money that we were raising was going backwards. And you know, we're all people that are competitive. We want to do well. We don't want to be associated with something that is going backwards. So it took a lot of extra work, a lot more personal discussions with the bishops, with the priests, with anybody that I had to work with to reassure them and to set the course so that we could move things forward. And that's the other thing I need to say to you today. It's all about those personal relationships, those conversations that you have, looking in the eyes of that person that you're either trying to sell something to or you're trying to serve, provide them with a service. You need to be able to connect. You know, you see it, like last night, my wife and I were just watching The Voice, you know, and you see the people connecting, and you see the coaches saying, hey, you know, your eyes, you got to connect with the audience, that type of thing. And if you do those things and you're committed to it, good things are going to happen for you, good results. So the world has changed. It's all about small businesses now. The big travelers that my dad worked for 35 years, the Aetnas, everything is small business. So there's so many opportunities for you guys. Just take it a step at a time, you know, a day at a time. It'll get better as you go along if you put that effort into it, okay? What'd I miss, my friend? We good? Okay, thanks. Yeah.
All right, so thank you to all our alumni for their insight and their experiences. I hope you got as much from it as I did. So right now we still have some time. Does anyone have any questions? Yep. Amelia.
I actually have three. I've been writing these down so I don't forget them. I'm going to start with one that's for all three of you because I guess it kind of does apply to all three of you. You all mentioned at some point that you had parts of your businesses in other parts of the U.S. and some even like in other countries and things like that. And I'm just sort of wondering, like, how does that happen? How do you decide I'm gonna put these people in Seattle? And how do you just make a call? How does that happen? Because a lot of what you guys talked about, and a lot of what I read about, they just go like, yeah, you know, we just opened an office in China, and I'm like, yeah, because it just happened like that. So I'm just sort of asking, how exactly does that happen?
Okay, I can start. For me, it was the opportunity of buying a company that had fallen on hard times. When I mentioned that we had started a business back in 1981, there was a lot of competition at that time. As we remained small, the larger companies, as the defense spending was starting to shrink, they were much larger organizations, and they were all folding one by one. So what we were doing was we were gobbling up those assets of those corporations as they became available to us. The biggest asset acquisition we made was in 1999. But we bought out companies in Kansas City, Pennsylvania, Texas, and a company in Connecticut as well. So we've kind of consolidated all those assets, and we are the company we are today. We do have an operation in Kansas City today, which is been reduced to the large size of the company that we actually had acquired. But that is the reason we have an operation elsewhere other than Connecticut.
You want it?
Sure.
Okay.
So the theoretically correct answer, and it is partially my answer, is that it should be part of a plan, right? That there's some form of expansion and depends on where you go. And that's more or less true. But I'm not a theoretist. I'm not a theory guy when it comes to business. I'm very much a gut person, which isn't good. That's why I have a partner too. He's much more left brain. But for us, when I mentioned transformation for us in 2009, and prior to that with Vigo, we had spread internationally. The anchor of any kind of growth that way is you have to go where the money is or where your clients are, or where you can do something, and money could be money coming in or money going out. So if you decide that maybe you want to open something in China, the reason you might want to open it in China is because whatever you're doing might be produced less expensively there than it would be here, right? For us, it is critical for us, important to us anyway, to spread geographically. So NEOS in its current phase, we have clients all across the country. It's not always economically feasible for me to ship people to LA, where we still have some clients, or to Seattle. In 2009, when I put the transformation plan together, I had a mantra of Boston, Austin, and Seattle, even back then. One, because I thought they were really cool cities. Two, I thought that we would find good clients around those cool cities, and we have. And three, I knew that from those cities, they have great university systems. There are good, sharp young people there to hire, and we can then deal with the country in regions. The spread internationally with Vigo was largely not in our business plan at all. We thought that we would, when we developed our software, that we would grow within North America, and so we wouldn't really need to do anything outside of Connecticut. I mean, not spread, really. But what happened was that the software that we built and the services we provided, there at that time, 2005, 2004 through 2007, 2008, the majority of interest came from outside the US. So I was kind of stuck with, how am I going to deal with that? So for a while, we traveled a lot internationally, and we did a lot of work internationally. It was a lot of fun. But fun aside, it wasn't practical, didn't make a lot of business sense. So that's when I started hiring people there. Kind of tying in, though, the tough decisions that you have to make. Like, if you notice, I didn't say we opened up an office, right? I hired 4 people in Vilnius. I was literally, I think, Joe, you and I had this conversation. We were 2 weeks away from, I was 2 weeks away from buying a building in Vilnius. And I was going to start, what's considered an outsourcing center. And it was really great, again, maybe this is off the track, but you guys can ask me any questions you want. It was excellent getting to that point. But within 2 weeks, what happened is, if we think about the collapse of 2008, 2009, and your professor would certainly be able to contribute to this, we saw a lot of bank failures, right? And a lot of them happened in Europe, and they happened like this. So here, our bank failure in our economic system, it was a steady decline, but it was gradual. In Europe, the way the commercialism was dealt with was, it's nice meeting you, but we're not going to work with you. It was immediate. And so I saw what was reflected for us, pipeline business, not real money, right, but pipeline money, which is forecasted money. About 18 million go to zero in 5 weeks. And I was 2 weeks away from signing a deal to purchase a building. So if we think about, the points of failure and stuff like that, I look at that time, and that was one of the scariest times of my business, right? Just so close to really kind of breaking through, and then it goes away like that. But I'm really thankful in retrospect that it went that quickly, because had that happened in this country where everybody's really polite, and they say, oh, yeah, next month we'll do that deal, and 2 months from now we'll do the deal, and 3 months, you keep hanging on that because you're opportunistic, or you're optimistic. In Europe, it went away for us like that. And I'm thankful, because otherwise I'd be burdened with a building, I'd be burdened with formal EU employees, I'd be burdened with European employment laws, which are onerous, to say the least. And in retrospect, it turned out to be a decent deal. Sorry? No, you can't. You can't. So I mean, you're really, you have to think about how you're gonna do that.
I don't have any reps other than our home office. I tried it. We had someone in Miami, someone in Chicago, and so forth. And it's a situation where having to work out of your home, I think, is really tough. And I just found that the success rate, and this would be going back into the early 2000 period, we probably had 5 or 6 regional reps. The success rate just wasn't there. And basically, they ended their tenure on their own and moved on because they just weren't comfortable with the process.
Can I just ask a follow-up question? I know part of the reason why Amelia was asking the question he was asking. If you're an entrepreneur and you've started a business in this country, and you see, your competition, they're expanding into Europe, or they're expanding into Asia. I think part of the question Amelia was asking is, how do you know how to do those things? What resources do you use? So you need a presence in Thailand, but how do you actually go about doing that? That was part of what Amelia was asking.
Yeah, okay, thanks. You want me to take a shot?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for us, so when geographic expansion became important, you know, when you have the capital to do it, really good legal representation is paramount. Shy of that, because we had to do the Vigo stuff we couldn't afford $600 hour lawyers. Connecticut actually offers a couple of programs that are, I think, really good programs to dial into. One is, and it's all acronyms, right? And I don't have the acronyms I should have probably cached them somehow, but I don't have them. But I can, if you guys are interested, I can email them to you. There's one that takes retired business folks and partners them up as mentors with entrepreneurial companies to help develop business plans. And you can pick kind of the different mentors you want for the different situation. And so working on something very specific like, hey, I'd like to open up a manufacturing plant or partner, maybe more appropriate with a company in the Philippines. They can help you find the right mentor and that has worked in the Philippines and knows how that process works. So the state offers some programs like that are actually pretty good. When I'd started my businesses, I'd peppered all of those types of things looking for the right help. I'd been partnered with, at that time, University of Hartford was running a business school, and they had offered up mentorship to companies that went in. I went in and it was deflating, to say the least, right? But it was a good example of how a university could work with businesses or entrepreneurs to help them get some, because you need bodies to do that. You need mind share to do it. So specifically, there's programs from the state that can help as you grow legal counsel. And the third thing I would say that's been very important to me, and probably the same to both of you, is a professional network. So, you know, as you progress, right, even right now, you guys are all a network, and you should be working together in one way or another. Every time you go through different phases of your life, you maintain that network and grow it. So chances will be somebody around this table is going to do, maybe they'll go work at a Price Waterhouse or an Accenture or something, and they'll be off doing work in Ireland, right? When you go to think about business expansion, you might call them. So I would say state programs, good professional advice, that you got to watch it, caveat that. And I think, you know, a good network of business associates, really, really critical and cheap.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Is there any memory you have in the beginning of starting your businesses that you wish you did differently? It doesn't necessarily have to be the beginning, but is there something that sticks out from you that you wish you did differently? And whether it's like a mistake you made that you wish you did differently?
For me, I wish I knew Ernest about 15 years ago, because I could have had him do a software package and we would all be retired now.
We can still do it.
Yeah,
Let's talk about that after.
So, you know, there are a couple things that you think about that you say, wow, you know, if I could have just acted at that time. And as we age, it gets harder, you know, because the pot at the end of the rainbow you're hoping is going to be in the exit strategy that is going to set you up for retirement, et cetera. You know, but again, it's out there for all of us. It is.
Yeah, if there's one thing I hope you all take away from today's event, is that as you listen to our stories, I hope what you're hearing is a journey. This has been, running a business is a journey. And I think Ernst said it best, that when you start a business as an entrepreneur, it's the end result is what you're looking for. It's those early years of sacrifice, risk, failure. We've felt it all, and yet here we are today because we were able to overcome that. And the end result, the benefit is at the end. It's the, you know, you're reinvesting into your business at the very beginning. You're trying to make a name for yourself. You're looking for opportunities. One other thing I just wanted to share as well, I think back on about my father and how he was a vice president for this big corporation, and in the end he got laid off. He climbed this corporate ladder, and in the end he couldn't even control his own destiny. Rather than climb that corporate ladder, why not own that ladder? we own our ladders. We can control our destiny at this stage. But what I want to say is it also took a lot of hard work to get there. So as far as, I wish if there's anything I could have done differently at the very beginning, I came out of Eastern, I didn't take any business courses. Everything that I learned on the fly, learned the hard way. And I'm sure we all have those same experiences. So as a philosophy teacher once said to us in class one time when I was here at Eastern, you have your learning years, you have your earning years, and then you have your yearning years. So you're all in your learning years right now, and I'm sorry, I'm a former school teacher, and I think once a teacher, always a teacher. I just want to emphasize again, learn as much as you can. Take those business courses, be active in your entrepreneur club, learn from people like ourselves who have already experienced a business journey through life, and apply it to what you want to pursue in your life passion, and you will find success. I'm sure of it.
If I could, very specifically, the one thing I think about to this day is that if you can grow a business with somebody else's money, you should do it. So, and I said it that way so that you remember it, right? Because I did everything with my own money, right? And I thought I was smart enough to kick off that software business with my own money, and I did, and it went okay, but it went really slowly. So right now, with the business climate the way it is, and that's why I think I maybe mentioned it in my ramble or rant, or however you say it before, but at the beginning, you decide how are you going to start and fund the business. So it's great to have an idea, but you need the money to get this all going. So deciding on whether you're going to take outside investor money, or you're going to borrow the money, or whether you're going to work and bootstrap your business, to me is one of the things I look back at for the software company that I mentioned. I bootstrapped it. I intended to raise money. I started with angel investors. I had a deal sheet that I declined. And then June of 2008 hit. I lost that pipeline. I had no further money to move that business forward. So hopefully, I wanted to be direct with you because it's a really good question, and I hope it kind of talks about that. That's one area that I think, not that I had taken that term sheet, but maybe had I prioritized bringing in outside institutional money as a higher priority earlier on, I could have probably raised a couple $1 million. I could have hired the people I had. I could have had it not burden down my own funding job, right? And it probably could have made that all go a lot faster.
All right, well, we're kind of out of time, but if you still have some questions, our panelists will stick around for a little bit. You can come up and ask them.
Can I put a shameless plug in?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So intern season is rolling around for my business, and we have openings. So if anybody's looking to do anything over the summer or is interested in stuff, please talk to me.
All right, and before that, we have some gifts for our panelists.
I thought it was 2 bottles of water. And I wasn't kidding about Blarney's.
On behalf of Eastern and our Entrepreneurship Hub, we just want to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.